Hi, guys. So this is the second of two videos where I'm discussing a little bit about the new development market in New York City right now and negotiating strategies for buyers, new development buyers. So just for context, okay, the last several years, there's been a glut of new development in New York City, which is making developers eager to make deals to close on these apartments. And there's also the coronavirus, where we have essentially a shutdown of the residential and commercial real estate markets in New York State and New York City as well. So these two things are sort of like a perfect storm of factors to give new development buyers a lot of leverage right now. And one of the things, in just as a general philosophy, in terms of when you're negotiating these offers with new development sellers, which we like to call sponsors, so sponsors don't like to drop the pricing on their apartments as much as possible, because when they drop the price, or when something closes at that price, it's sort of public knowledge, it's public record. So that can affect the price of all future sales if people are constantly coming back to them saying, but you sold this same apartment in a different floor, for X number of dollars. So what they like to do is they like to give concessions on things where you can save money as the buyer, less money out of your pocket, but it doesn't necessarily bring down the price as much. All that said, now is a good time to be negotiating downward pricing on anything that you're buying, including new development. But in addition to that, you should focus some of your efforts in the negotiation on things like transfer taxes, legal fees, and common charges, and a couple other things. But let's start with transfer taxes. So in New York City, you have New York State transfer tax, and you have the New York City real property transfer tax. This equals 1.4% of the sale price of the new development place that you're buying, and it can be up to 1.65% of the purchase price if you're in the $3 million or above market. So that's $14,000 to $16,000 per million dollars of purchase price. That's real money. So that is something that's almost like standard right now, right? So developers should all be taking on the transfer taxes to get a deal done. If they're not, I don't know. You should be. So the next thing is legal fees. So oftentimes with new development, sponsors will try and get the buyer to pay for their lawyer's fees. This is something that you should, again, not a huge amount of money, but definitely something that you should be putting into your offer, that the sponsor pays for their own legal fees. And it's funny that you would have to specify that, but if you don't, they will expect you to pay the sponsor fees. And this is different from the resale market. In New York City, if you're buying a resale apartment, the sellers don't expect you, individual sellers don't expect you to pay for their legal fees, okay? But that's another thing that sponsors should be willing to accept. Another thing is common charges. So particularly if there's a possibility that you might not be taking possession of the apartment, you should definitely be able to negotiate some common charges to free months of common charges for the buyer. Now, not in all cases, but I have, for instance, a new development deal on the table in Brooklyn somewhere. Well, I can't tell you where, because that would be, I don't want to blow up our situation. But, we negotiated sponsor paying transfer taxes. We negotiated the sponsor paying their own legal fees. We negotiated a couple of months, a month or two of free common charges. And we also got a free parking spot. So that was, I wouldn't expect all developers to do that, but that was actually something that happened in this development in Brooklyn that we were working on. So, but we'll see where that goes, because this contract is in limbo like many during the coronavirus times. Anyway, so with the common charges too, I just want to mention, you might be able to get 6 months of free common charges. Maybe it's 3, maybe it's 2, maybe it's 1, maybe it's a year. It really depends on the development and how eager to sell that developer is. But some amount of concession there should be possible as well. Again, they are typically more open to some of these concessions than price concessions. So that is pretty normal. The last thing I want to mention, which is really interesting development in new development, is Extel is one of the bigger developers in New York City, and they have something called One Manhattan Square down on the Lower East Side. So in One Manhattan Square, they have offered to pay to buy down a point on your mortgage to give you a lower rate. So what that means is that Extel is offering they're saying, okay, so we will buy, it's called like a discount point. We'll pay for your mortgage to be lower and have a lower interest rate, and if you close on one of our apartments. So how that works is, I was just talking to a guy named Eric Stam at Bank of America. He's a great lender. You can get in touch with me. I'll put you in touch with him, or you can just Google him. And today, for $1.25 million deal with a $1 million mortgage, you can spend 1% of the mortgage price or purchase price on discounting your rate. And right now, the rates are at 3.25% for a 30-year fixed mortgage. That means that if you pay on this, $1.25 million purchase at the time of closing, you pay the fee of $10,000 to $12,000, and they will discount your mortgage rate from 3.25% to 2.75%. So you're getting a full half point off the mortgage by paying that 1% discount fee. So you could go to Extel, you can try and buy in One Manhattan Square and get them to discount points off your mortgage. This is an unusual and very creative solution, I would say, by the guys at Extel to come up with ways to move product from their perspective. So would any other developers do that? I don't know, but you could ask. You never know. Okay, so I hope this has been helpful. There's a lot of nuance to this stuff, and there are other details, but this is a good primer for new development buying. Okay, so stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy, stay as entertained and not bored as you can, and I will talk to you later.